Welcome, Studs and Scrubs, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Studs and Scrubs podcast. I'm your co-host, Stu Coffee, and with me, as always, is Nick Stroum.
Nick Stroum. What up, Stu?
Nick Stroum. I didn't even read it before. The custom Nick Stroum on the...
Yes, sir. Christmas gift from you, I believe, or
Nice.
some sort of gift. Birthday?
I've noticed a
Wedding
discrepancy
gift?
in the spelling.
Can't remember.
Our podcast has the U up there, and
Oh, and this says O. I'll fix
the
that.
O is probably more official, though, right?
Probably.
Holmstrom,
Yeah.
Lindstrom.
Let's go with this.
We just got a thumbs up on your phone, so that is destiny. We got to go with the O. We'll change it.
Okay,
We'll edit
change
it.
I'll
We don't
fix
know
that.
how, but next recording maybe we'll change it.
All right. I got some homework to do. I like it.
Thanks, everyone, for giving us a chance. New podcast and all that. This is episode 3. We're going down through the divisions with just our preseason predictions. If you haven't heard before, we did a brief overview. We're just kind of some guys that are hockey fans. None of us play at a high level. We have another co-host. My brother is not able to join us right now, but he should be on in later episodes. And we're going to kind of focus on hockey fantasy and just, kind of Monday morning, quarterback type of stuff. We are obviously Red Wings fans. We will be biased for Red Wings with no ashamed at all. But we're not, experts or insiders or anything like that. So let's get into it. I think I've had a similar opening every single episode. So if we have a bunch of listeners to start off the show, they're sick of that. So we're going to dive in and do the Central. Nick went first with the Metro last episode.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go first.
Yeah, I want to see what you got. And
okay.
So I can change my answers as we go along.
Right? It's like what's his name? Martin, the author of Game of Thrones. I'm starting to get convinced that the fans didn't like the end of the show, so he's like, oh no, the books are different.
Yeah, that's not what I had. Yeah, that's not what I had.
Rewrite them real quick. Anyways, so I'm going to start from last place and move up. That's how we did the other, the Atlantic and the Metro. We got our East Coast. We got our playoff predictions for the preseason ready to go. And for me, I have the Central bottom last place, same as last year. I got the Hawks in last. I think that they'll be better this year. I think they're going to be kind of exciting with certain people, but their roster's still a bit thin. They were pretty bad last year, let's be honest. Bednar missed a big chunk of the season and, still had tons of points. So they made a lot of moves in the offseason. I think they're going to be a better team overall, and they're still just not going to be able to make that step. I was going through the Central, and to be honest, it's a little tougher than I kind of gave it credit for. I'm sitting down reading it going, these teams are pretty dang good. And everyone knows the buzz right now is kind of around Nashville with some of their new moves. But Chicago made a lot of really good moves. I think their goaltending tandem's underrated. Berceau, or however you say his name, Boissois, is a very capable backup for years, right? He's been backing up Hellebuck. I think he's underrated. He's a stud. Red Wings fans, we know Mrazek can be really good at times, and he's bounced around the NHL a little bit. But, I think those guys, they're going to get some saves from those guys. And for me, Bednard is a bit of a – I keep adding the N. Bedard is a outlier. Like, he is good enough.
I was thinking that. I didn't want to say anything because there's another podcast where a guy
There's another podcast. We can plug
Draisaitl.
There's a Draisaitl. There's a more famous podcast that does that a lot. That's probably why I do it. I'm a fan of that show. I do listen. But anyways, I do think that it's common for the rookies that have big years to have that sophomore slump, right? It's kind of a, slang, a word you throw around, sophomore slump. But I think it's proven pretty well. Someone like Bedard, I don't think so. I think he's too good. He really is the real deal. He's going to have a huge season. And their first line, according to Daily Faceoff, is Teravainen, Bedard, and Tyler Bertuzzi. our Red Wings guy, Bert. That is a really good line. I mean, they're going to get some points. I just think that the team as a whole won't finish very high. Not yet. Give them 3 or 4 years, as much as I'm not a huge fan of the Blackhawks, being a Wings fan. They're back. They're going to be good. Not yet. Moving up. I've actually got the Blues next. Blues have a pretty solid team. They're competitive. They're mediocre. They got a full 4 lines that are solid. Robert Thomas is a total stud. And as much as Bennington is kind of a funny, joke sometimes, it's like he can sometimes be the best goalie in the world and sometimes not. So I think their season really depends on him quite a bit. And what's his name? Kyrou and Thomas. Those three for me. That's Bennington's on, and the big boys are rolling. They'll be a good team. Not an easy win, but I don't see it. I've got them down. One step up for me is the Wild. I feel like the Wild just, they have that dead cap space, right? When they had to buy out the big contracts. So for me, it's like they're a very surprisingly competitive team with what they have and what they can put on the ice.
Yeah.
They're last year, I think they surprised people. Their goalie tandem is at times really good, and at times it struggles. Fleury's whatever, 40 years old, and what's his name there? Is more of the starter now. I think that Fleury's kind of the backup. Gustafsson, yeah, and or Gustafsson, however you say his name.
Yeah, Gustafsson. Yeah.
Goldie's out right now, but I'm pretty sure that's short term. I think they're going to be a good team. They're solid. They're just out on the outside looking in. Next up, I've got Utah. So for me, I think Utah's going to surprise a lot of people. I think Arizona's been a pretty good team the past 2 or 3 years. just like their record doesn't show it. The whole thing with the college arena and all that stuff, I'm not really going to get into. I don't really care. But with the new team and the owners out there spending money, the big move is obviously bringing in Sergachev. It's like, to me, that's a statement. That's an owner saying, we're going for the best. I'm spending money, and we are going to win. And I don't think they're going to be an amazing team, but same thing, their goaltending tandem, I think, is underrated. Connor Ingram is a solid goalie. I'm very bullish on, can't say his name, Vejmelka.
I was waiting for it. How many M's are you going to add to that?
I should have Googled how to pronounce it because I'm like, but I think that he's a really good goalie. Last year, his numbers weren't very good. And you're getting peppered in Arizona. And years before that, whatever, he's not very old, but 2 or 3 years, I think his numbers were better in Arizona. And that if those two can share the load and they're just, Utah's young, Utah's fast, I think Clayton Keller probably has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. There's no C. I don't know if that's something the media is running with or just fans, but I don't know. You get this new team and you bring these new guns and you're like, New Jersey's new team. We're secretly the Yeti, but we're not going to tell anyone, and we're going to be good. And then Clayton Keller is a total stud. He's the obviously best person over the past 5 years or whatever in Arizona. And even when people are humble and soft-spoken, sometimes it's like, these guys are really, really competitive. And, I mean, what are you going to do? Bring in Sergachev and give him a C? Day one? Okay, Cooley's only like 20 years old. It's like Keller's the leader of that team. And I think, personally, they're going to surprise a lot of people. I don't know if I should say it yet. Do we want to do any playoff projections or just our ranking? Playoff?
Yeah, you can. I mean, rankings, and then when you start to think these teams
when you get in your top playoffs. 3 or your wild card or whatever. Okay, so then I'm starting.
Okay, so Utah doesn't make the playoffs.
Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3. Utah's in.
Okay, so now Utah's in.
Utah's
5
in.
Slot Central.
That's maybe it's silly. Some people are probably have turned off our podcast now, but I think they're going to sneak in, and it's more to do for me that I think the Pacific's top heavy. Yeah. So I think that we're sending 5 teams from the Central this year.
Okay.
And I picked 5 from the Atlantic, so maybe I'm skewed a little. Maybe I'm off, but I don't know. Just look at the Wild, the Blues, and Utah. I think all 3 of them are solid. And so I'm like, man, I think they're going to get in a race at the end, and one of them's going to pop in. I'm picking Utah. I'm sticking by it. Wild
Okay.
card two.
All right.
Moving on. Predators. Wild card one.
Okay.
I actually had them in the top three for a little bit, and then I think that last year the Jets disappointed in the playoffs round one, but I'm looking at their team going, the Jets are kind of stacked though. They're a pretty dang good team. So I couldn't really bring myself to say, okay, Predators got Stamkos, they're going to win the division. But I think that they're going to be really good. Main thing for me is Saros. He is so good that they almost went to playoffs last year basically on Saros. So you got Yossi, you got what's his name, Johansson, right? Is he going to have
Oh
a
yeah.
not Johansson though? I meant to say Forsberg. Is Forsberg going to be as good as he was last year? I'm not sure. But with Stamkos and Marchessault, it's like just enough firepower. They don't have to have 40 goal seasons like they did last year. It's just more goals. It's just, even if they both get 20 or 30, I mean, you're looking at 60 extra goals with Saros playing lights out like clockwork. You don't ever have to worry about his performance. And, excuse me, Wedgwood is a capable backup. He can steal
Mm.
20 games and play solid and give Saros a little bit of rest so he doesn't have to just constantly carry the team. I think that they are in the playoffs no brainer this year. Actually, it's just that the Central's pretty tough, so I have them dropping out. Let's move up so I don't take too long rambling. Now I got the Jets in third. I think I basically covered it already. To be honest, they're just a top to bottom complete team that I think is solid. And Hellebuck, won the Vezina last year. We all know his playoff numbers weren't that good, but like he's awesome and he's going to be fine. The team's going to be fine. They got, a complete full roster that hits and they're big. And I'm looking at, Velarde. It came over in the trade, I think, for PLD and is underrated. And Ehlers is underrated. Kyle Connor's underrated. I think kind of their whole team's underrated. Adam Lowry, they've got on line three. He's a very good player, 200-foot player. Like, they're good. And they've got Capo Kakkonen now as the backup goalie. He'll be totally fine. Same thing, 20 games, 30 games. He's solid. They're in, no question for me.
Okay.
I got them in third. Second place, Central, I got Avs. I hate to say it as a Wings fan, but they're still really good. I think that they'll be a little bit worse than last year, just off the top of my head. I can't remember all the moves that happened with them, to be perfectly honest. I didn't even pull up their roster. That's how biased I am. I just hate looking at their logo. I hate looking at their face. I hate everything. I don't like it when people are like, "Oh no, don't you miss the old days though in the '90s with the rivalry and it's like the Red Wings Avalanche rivalry." Well, okay, yes, those are my glory days as an old guy, but like I don't want the two best teams to be the Red Wings and the Avalanche again. Other than
Yeah.
the Red Wings winning the Stanley Cup final would be awesome. It's like, dude, I want the Avalanche to go 0-82
Every
every
year.
single season. I want them to lose by 10. I want their fans to boo them. It's like I hate that team, and I don't get it. Not to get sidetracked, but you and I have
Yeah.
talked about this. Nick is from the East Coast, but I grew up in Central Illinois. Nick moved there, whatever, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So we grew up around people. The Cubs and the Cardinals, right? Baseball rivalry, huge. They hate each other, except
Right.
our whole lives. I'm a Cubbies, go Cubbies, go Cubbies. I'm a Cubbies guy. If they're not in the playoffs, they're like, well, Cardinals, they're my second favorite team.
Right. How is that possible?
No, what? No, if I like Michigan, I don't root for the Ohio State. I want the Ohio State to lose every single game. It's like I don't get it. Anyways, that being said, the Avs are good. McKinnon is a freak of nature. Makar is a freak of nature. They're going to be amazing. I've got them finishing second. But I hope not. I hope they lose. And number one, I got Dallas. Obviously, they're the last one left. And to me, they're not going to be quite as good as last year, I think. But they're still really good. And Ottinger is just a freak. And I think that they're going to be fine. And the top four for me, Dallas, Avs, Jets, Preds, I think are going to be really close. I think they're only going to win the division by 8 points or something. It's going to be tight, and it was last year. I think it
Yeah.
came down to the final game of the season. They were tied,
Mm.
maybe. So it's like I think it'll be
Yeah.
very tight. That's what I got. 5 teams in: Dallas, Avs, Jets, Preds, Utah. That's all I got.
All right. I like it. It's almost like you copied my homework.
We should have talked before the podcast. This is okay. Hang up. Bye.
Yeah. Uh, I have a couple little changes, but overall we are very similar. It was kind of
Okay.
scary. So I won't rehash too much of some of that, but um,
I
my
could see you
team.
laughing. I could see you laughing when I was talking, and I was like, "Am I stupid?"
Well,
Or and you're sitting there
no,
going,
no, no. Because
"Stu's taking all the words out of my mouth."
here's the thing, right? I'm like, what am I gonna say? Stu's saying it all. So team the standings wise, and then also you've hit at probably you've said about 3 or 4 names of my studs and scrubs in your analysis here as well. So I really have nothing to say this podcast. Um, but let's
Tune
go
in
through
next time,
these.
guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Like and
thanks for
subscribe.
tuning in. Make the first move, Conway, and peace out. Um, no, so this was another one of those instances where I wanted to pick the playoff teams, and so in order to do that, I also had to rank the Pacific Division because
Yep.
I needed to know who the was going to make the playoffs for them. And I have 5 teams in the Central making the playoffs as well. I was looking at all their rosters, trying to figure out, okay, what do I think these teams are going to do? And then I'm trying to find some studs and scrubs, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And I'm like you, the Central in the West is like the Atlantic in the East. Just a lot of teams that are all right there fighting for those playoff spots. And so it was tough. I think it's the parity in the Central is there's not much difference separating these teams,
Yep.
especially the
Yep.
top 4. So my last place team in the Central, I actually have the Blues, not the Hawks. I think the Blues, yeah, okay, but it, I don't think they improved at all from
Yeah.
last year. I think they were kind of they're kind of staying the same. I know they got that Broberg and Holloway from the Oilers, but I don't really see them being Broberg, nice defenseman, a nice addition, but his numbers look pretty good when he's in Edmonton. Let's see what he does in St. Louis. Different forwards that you're playing with. So Blues, I just don't think made any moves to make themselves better. I have them last. 7th place, I have the Hawks because I do think they made themselves a little bit better with a lot of their additions.
Yep.
So I think both of those are going to be kind of in the basement, bottom feeder of the Central. Um, but I think the reason the Blues are at the bottom is more because the Hawks made themselves a little bit better with their offseason moves.
Yep.
If Taylor Hall can stay healthy, you got Foligno there now. He adds some grit to that team. I think Big Rig's there, right? Pat Maroon, didn't he go to the
Yeah.
Hawks?
Big rigs there. Yep.
Um, so he'll bring some experience and leadership to that team. You got Bedard, who's I'm kind of glad. There's a little side tangent here. I mean, he's obviously the next long-term captain of the Hawks, but it's probably the right move not to give him the C this year. Still a little young. Let him get another year under his belt,
I
and
agree.
then give him that responsibility. He's still trying to figure some things out. He's going to be a great player for years to come. They're a franchise player, obviously, but don't add more pressure to his plate. Just kind of let him be able to play, not have to be, under that microscope. So
Agree. Go score
I
some
like,
goals. Just
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Bertuzzi there, like you said, they've added some pieces um, to make themselves start to go in the right direction. Team 6th place, I also have the Wild. Man, I was looking at everyone's rosters, looking at everybody's teams, and this is just where I kind of started to struggle already. I'm like,
Right.
how do you put the Wild all the way down here in 6th place?
Right,
but
because they're solid.
they're solid. You look at their team; they got some good young defensemen. They got some good young players, and I think this is Fleury's last year, so it's his kind of farewell tour. Um, so I hope they do well. Fleury deserves to go out um, on a good team, I think. But man, this also had more to do with the competition above them in the Central than more than anything. It's not that they're a bad team. It's just that you know after Kaprizov and okay, you got Ryan Hartman and Zuccarello on your first line, but it's just some of these other teams are just loaded
Yeah,
with talent, and so it's going to be hard for them to keep up, I think. So that's why I have Minnesota in the sixth spot. Nothing against them, but just the other teams ahead of them. So fifth place in the Central, also making the playoffs. I have Utah. I'm with you. I think clean slate for all these guys. Fresh start. We're putting the Arizona Coyotes behind us. We're now a new team. Bringing Sergachev in, I think, is huge for them. I think he's going to log big minutes. Um, could just be a stallion this year, uh, slash stud.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I like Utah. I think they're going to surprise some people. Do they have a lot of young talent on that team? Even guys that have been around and played on the Coyotes, Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, like you said. Those guys have been around for a while, but they're still young. Logan Cooley, I think, is going to have a great year as well. Sergachev, I did not realize how young he is.
yeah.
Um, but
Same.
they're just setting themselves up. I think some great moves, and I think they're going to surprise some people. They're going to be motivated to play because, like I said, just new environment, new team, kind of a fresh start for all those guys. Just to be able to put pass behind them. All right, here we go. And so I like Utah. I like them
Yeah,
to sneak into the playoffs and maybe make a little noise. So I
yeah.
got them five. Fourth, I went with Winnipeg. Um, this is where we had a couple teams different, but again, looking at Winnipeg's roster, dude, they're
Yeah,
solid.
they're
And of course, Hellebuck. I mean, you can play with a different level of confidence when you have a Hellebuck in goal, or back in our era, when you have a Hasek in goal, or a Brodeur, just someone that, yeah, okay, you might give up a couple odd man rushes, but you're not worried about it.
yeah,
You might be able to, give up some shots, but Hellebuck's going to steal you games. He's just that good. And so I think all of that combined, a lot of people kind of forget about the Jets. Maybe just because, Winnipeg's not like a flashy, big city, big market necessarily. And kind of reminds me of like the Carolina Hurricanes, like we talked about in the Metro a little bit. Just a solid overall team, always
yeah,
there, always competitive, a tough out, but maybe doesn't necessarily have that quote unquote superstar. Hellebuck's probably their superstar. I mean, you got Kyle
yeah.
Connor and some of those bigger name players, but I mean, if you don't really pay attention to hockey, you don't really know some of those players. I would venture to
Right,
guess that a lot of people that aren't avid hockey fans still might know who Crosby and Ovechkin are.
right,
No one really. Your fringe fans aren't going to know a Kyle Connor or an Ehlers or
right.
someone.
It's
But I
true.
like the way they play. Just a great team chemistry, team uh, just team success. So I like that. And Kyle Connor can still score probably 40 goals in a season. So
Yeah,
I mean he'll put up some numbers.
yeah,
So Winnipeg fourth. Then I have Colorado number two. I think that they will take a step back. Top line, McKinnon, Rantanen, and I think Jonathan Druin is on the other wing. I don't know that it matters who you put on there with McKinnon and Rantanen.
Right.
Put me out there, and they're still going to put up numbers.
I could
Um,
get 10. Right.
uh, so I mean, they're just obviously McKinnon reigning MVP of the league and stuff, and you got McCarr, a defenseman that potentially could put up 100 points in a season, no problem. Probably hits, as a point per game player as a defenseman. I mean, just
Right.
unreal. And
Asleep.
so,
Right.
there's no lack of firepower on the Avs team, that's for sure. So I think that maybe they take a little bit of a step back, but not much. They're still going to be right there.
Yeah.
And so I got them 3. Number 2, I got Nashville. So I moved them. I think we have Nashville and Winnipeg flip flopped.
Yep.
Or no, you have Colorado too, maybe? Did you have Colorado
I
too?
had Colorado too. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but again, all these teams are real close. There's not going to be too much that separates them. You get an injury to someone, and these teams can be all out of whack. Then
Yep.
Hellebuck goes down, misses them 2 months of the season, then the
Oof.
Jets
Yeah.
maybe
Knock
fall
on
out of the
wood here.
playoffs.
It's good.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
coming
I'm not
down.
trying to jinx anybody, but I like Nashville. I like the Stamkos signing, Marchessault. Um, they got some talent there. A little older. I mean, Stamkos isn't as young as he was, but I think he's still got a little bit to prove. You're the Lightning captain, multi Stanley Cup winner, and you feel kind of like you got the shaft with the Lightning, and
Yeah.
so I think he's probably out to still prove something. I think he still has some gas in the tank, and I like Roman Yossi a lot. I think this team's going to be pretty dangerous. Got a couple of really good lines that can score. Um, Nyquist on the top line Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg on one side, Goose on the other, and so I think if Forsberg can stay healthy, he's had some injury problems, but if he can stay healthy, I think he got 90 points last year. So um, I think the power play is going to be lethal. You're talking Roman Yossi, Stamkos, Forsberg, Marchessault, and pick Ryan O'Reilly, Gustav. I mean, whoever you want in there. But those are some stud power play players that you have there. And like you said, UC Saros, if he can stay healthy, if he can stay, uh, stay in the game on the roster, health wise, again, another goalie that you're not too concerned about, stopping the puck for you. He's shown it in the past. He's proved it, and I think he's ready to kind of take that next step. So I got Nashville at 2, um, and then I also have Dallas winning the division. I just think they're the most complete team. They got a lot of good young defenseman there. Miro Heiskanen, I think, takes another step forward. Jake Ottinger, his name's always been thrown around here with the Vezina the last few years. I think he takes another step forward. He's just getting better and better. Another just good young player. And he had some not health problems, but injury problems last year, kind of in and out a little bit. So it's hard to find that rhythm sometimes. But I just think that the Dallas Stars are the most complete team in the division. I think they win it. I don't think it's a runaway. I think um, top 4 teams: Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg. I wouldn't be shocked if any of those teams win the division.
Yep.
Wouldn't shock me at all. So put those 4 in any order in
Yeah.
the top 4, and I'm fine with it. But that's what I got. Dallas winning it. Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg, Utah making the playoffs. Minnesota, the first team out. And then Hawks and Blues flip flop them in the basement, however you want to put them in
Yeah.
there. But so
Yeah, ours were very similar, but I think that we've got it pretty much like where
big
those top
picture,
four
we got it.
are the right.
Yeah.
We, I think that that's somewhat obvious, maybe, but like you said, the Central just start to finish all the way down. Even the Blues and the Hawks aren't very good teams, but it's like I agree with you that I might even almost change in my mind. I'll keep it for the record, but the Blues didn't really make a lot of moves that made them better. I know that they, Torrey Krug's probably done for the year, right? And
Yeah,
so that's hard. And then the Hawks, every move the Hawks made them better than they were last year. So it's
yeah,
like, and there's sometimes some good things with the young players. I think we'll talk more about it in Pacific because I feel like San Jose and Anaheim both have a lot of good
mm,
young core. But Utah too, like Sergachev is so good. He's obviously a 1D, but like he plays a lot of minutes.
yeah,
And when someone like Bernard has to be the media boy of the NHL, has to try to be on the, cover of every single magazine and all this stuff, and he's constantly being bothered, then he's got to go score 50 goals, and then he's got to be an 18-year-old captain or whatever. It's like it's too much.
yeah,
When you bring in people like Nashville's got the Goose, right? Nyquist.
hmm,
Chicago gets Bertuzzi, right? And there's some of these moves that you're seeing, or maybe they're not moves, they're just players that play that role, that they take so much pressure off. Even like a critique with Dallas, right, has been for years, Jamie Benn and Tyler Sagan, that their numbers don't equal their pay, right? And I think the owner of the team even made some comment a few years ago about it, which is a little crazy, but like that takes so much pressure off of Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnston to just go play hockey
right,
because they're dealing with the pressure, they're dealing with the money crap, they're dealing with all the media complaints while they're out there like, okay, if there's a hard matchup, like you've got to play, whoever it is, a top line. They're going to send out, Chicago's going to send out Nick Foligno and those guys that might mix up the lines, but they're going to play a shutdown role where they're trying to smother and Anthony is, I think, an underrated player who's known for his speed, but he's pretty solid on defense. He can be. He killed a lot of penalties with the Red Wings. Like those players, they can go against maybe whatever Nashville's top line and just try to slow them down and smother them. And you can get some mismatches, right? Where those young players, okay, now they're out there against some slower guys, and it's like, okay, well, if you got Teravainen and Bedard on a 2-0, just put the goal up on the board. It's over.
right.
But I agree with your breakdown. I know ours was similar, but I think we got the Central pretty good here. So we're doing pretty good time wise. This podcast, it feels like we're getting in the rhythm a little bit here.
I think
Um,
so. Kind of catching
this
on
is
a little
where
bit,
we're
finding our
right
groove.
at the 30 minutes, so we're gonna do an imaginary break for us to slice in our sponsors. We don't have yet, but everyone to please stay
Sounds
tuned,
good.
and we'll be right back after the break. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We got through our Central Division breakdown, and now we are going to move right into the Studs and Scrubs hour. Is that right?
Let's do it. Studs and scrubs, baby.
Okay, want to go one for one like
Yeah,
we did
I
last
like
time?
that.
Okay.
And are we doing one stud, one scrub, and then one
And then
whatever of
one
our choosing?
that should probably be our
Dealer's
format moving
choice?
on,
Yeah,
right?
I
Because
like that.
and like we've said before, the Studs and Scrubs name of the podcast and all that, it started because we were thinking it'd be cool to do a segment where you're talking fantasy hockey and you're like, this guy's available, right? He's a free agent. He's a total stud. Go out and
Yeah,
pick him up, before someone else gets him. And then the other way where you've got someone maybe who's a bigger name that isn't producing the points. Like, I don't know a good example. I'll pick on him because I just said him. If you've got Jamie Benn and he's a lower draft pick nowadays and he's in a slump, okay, I don't know if you really want to drop Jamie Benn necessarily, but that's the type of thing in fantasy where we'll be like, look, you got to cut it. Pierre Luc Dubois is the easy one, right? You don't want to pick on the guy all the time, but like when you got him on fantasy and he hasn't scored in 7 games or 20 games, it's like, dude, you got to drop this guy.
yeah,
That's a scrub. And so before the season started, that's what we're doing, where we're kind of more talking about like who's going to have a breakout year versus who's going to be overvalued. They're going to take a step back. Maybe last year they got 40 goals, and we're saying, I don't see it. I see them at 25 this year. Draft them later rounds. Don't
accordingly.
pick them in round 2. You're going to get burnt. That's
Yeah.
more what we're saying. Anyways, just a quick preference since we're doing good on time. I'll go with a stud, right? We're doing studs?
Okay. Yep.
Well, I don't want to steal yours, but I want to make sure that one of us says him. Um, We did not talk before the pod, but I just feel like coming from the Red Wings, I'm going to go Tyler Bertuzzi.
Okay.
Bert.
Okay.
I think Bert is going to have a huge year, to be honest with you. I don't think he's really going to break any records or anything, but Chicago has made some steps to be better, right? And we just talked about how you can get the mismatches sometimes. They're a little bit more complete. If Taylor Hall's healthy, they've got some line manipulation they can do that's pretty good. I think they're going to keep Bert with Bednard most of the year. And he can keep up. He's got the speed. He's a little bit crazy, maybe. I mean, like, we've seen him go nuts a couple times for the Red Wings, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
when he went to Boston and played in the playoffs before the trade to Toronto happened, I thought he was so good in Boston. He played so well. He plays a little mean. He's got no problem turning around and knocking all your teeth out if he has to. But then he's just lighting it up with Larkin, right? And where it didn't really work out in Toronto, I think he's going to be totally revived in Chicago. Someone's got to score, right? Even if they end up in last place and they're trying to get the number one pick again, like, someone on that team's putting the puck in the net, and it's obviously Bedard, but like, I've got the stats here from last year. Bert got 21 goals and 22 assists. I've got him at 30 goals and 60 apples. I think he's going to have the best year of his career,
Wow.
and
Okay.
that's
Okay.
coming on the heels of, I think, Bednard's getting 40, no problem. He might get 45. So it's a little 1-2 punch. But I think that Bert is just going to play with him. He's going to play well, and he's going to get some probably lucky secondary assists where you just kind of touched it and you're like, oh, no. That's
Okay.
not for me. So 90-point season for Tyler Bertuzzi.
Whew.
Mark it down right now. I put Hawk in
Okay.
last place, but Bert getting 90 points. You figure that out. That's my stud. That's my fantasy stud. I don't
Oh
remember his
man.
Yahoo ranking, but they've got him
Okay.
at like round 16 in our 12 with 12 teams in our league. A round 16 pick, I'm going no. If you can
Okay.
get Bertuzzi in round 16, that's a steal. I would take him in the round 10 window, round 12.
Okay. Okay. So I'm looking them up here. 279 divided by 12. Wow. Yeah. So his projected rank is 279. Last season, his rank was 184.
So they've
So
got him going the other way. Yahoo thinks he'll go the other. No, I think it's the other way around. I think that they're projecting him 184.
projected 279.
Okay, then my thing's wrong. But either way, though, low. I think he's going to
Yeah.
be outperforming.
Even if he's 184, you figure, all right, 184 divided by 12, around 15.
Yeah.
So,
So right. So Yahoo's saying maybe don't even draft him, and I'm
yeah.
saying this guy is going to be good. I think he's going to
Okay.
have the best numbers of his career, which I don't have in front of me. But I think he has not gotten 90 points.
90
So
points would definitely be the best
it's
season
probably 70,
for
right? I don't
Bednar.
know what his top is, but I'm going 90.
Do you have Yahoo? Do you have his little blurb that they wrote about him pulled up here?
I just pulled it up.
Okay.
After struggling with injuries for 2 seasons,
Yeah. 21
okay,
goals,
injuries
22
with
assists. Yeah.
consistency, he's got a chance to play alongside Bernard. Yeah, ease and strength. The 50-point plateau. 50-point plateau, forget it. Through the ceiling with him,
Okay. Okay.
which is a little bit dependent on if Bedard goes out there and gets 40, 50 goals. So if he gets 30, my theory falls apart.
All right. So, Bertuzzi, your stud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta
Anything
be
else you got?
bold. You gotta be bold. No one wants to hear Connor McDavid's a stud. We know.
Right, right. Okay. Uh, anything else
No,
for
I've
him?
talked in circles. Bert is my
Okay,
stud. Well, who's your
okay.
stud?
All right. I'm actually going to go with a scrub first. But
Okay.
before we do that, um, how about Bert's closet, dude? Wings,
Oh,
Bruins, Leafs, Hawks. I mean, just a sick collection of
He's already
scrubs.
requested a trade to Montreal.
And
Hey, I
then
heard
New York.
Laine got hurt. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get all original six. Which we forgot to
um,
talk about. Lonnie did get hurt. That sucks, huh?
yeah. Yeah.
That's we're trying to do the central here, but that's a bummer for the Habs.
That is a major blow. Yeah. Okay. So Bert's closet, pretty sick. 4 teams, all original six. I mean, come
Yeah, I didn't get you
on.
were saying his jersey's hung up in his closet for a second there. I was like,
Yeah.
I
It's
think
pretty
he's
sick.
married.
um, but I actually have Tyler Bertuzzi as a scrub.
No way. Nick's not loyal to the Wings at all. Last podcast, you said the Penguins were going to break the record. You talked for 28 minutes about
Oh,
Crosby.
okay, okay. So I knew that was going to come up, bashing the former wing player. But
Oh my goodness, I can't catch a break.
I kind of like this. This is their first little bit of
I know.
controversy.
And you've got
Um,
the Hawks above where I have them.
I do. Now
Who's going to
listen,
score the goals, Nick?
I
Who's going to
have
score?
him as a scrub because I know that he's going to be a late round pick that's going to bring value. Uh, but I kind of think, yeah, I mean, I don't always agree with Yahoo, but if they're saying that he could return to a 50-point plateau, you're playing on line one with Bedard and on the power play one, and you're only going to get 50 points? That's a scrub.
That is a
I
scrub, but I think they're wrong.
and fair enough, fair enough. I just think so. I'm not saying maybe not scrub fantasy wise. If you can get him late, obviously he might be a good value pick, especially around 15. You're getting a guy that's going to play next to Bedard and on the power play one. But I mean, if he only gets 50 points, oof, then you want to draft him late. You're not trying to draft him early. But I don't know yet. I could see Bedard hitting a little bit of a sophomore slump. He's kind of a smaller guy. The season's going to wear on him, but I do like their additions of, they got those big physical guys. We're talking Big Rig, Nick Foligno. Those guys are going to help protect Bedard. So I do think he's still going to have a decent year. But I just put, and to be fair, when I was looking at all the rosters on these teams, it was kind of hard to pick out some studs and some scrubs because
Yeah,
I feel like there's a lot of players that are what you expect they are. Um,
yeah,
but
fair.
so I went scrub for Bertuzzi solely based on the fact that Yahoo thinks he's only going to get 50 points, and if you're on a top line, no matter who you are, if you're on the top line playing with Bedard and on the same power play that he is, and you only get 50 points on the season, then you're a scrub. You should be getting more like your numbers, what you're saying. So
Right.
hopefully Bert does that. I'd be fine. I don't mind rooting for some ex Wings players. Um,
I'm. That's yeah.
so he is a gritty player. I think he'll be able to help protect Bedard a little bit too. He's going to get in there, physical, get in front of the net, get those, cleaning up the trash, the garbage in front of the net, just crashing it, and a couple of rebounds. I think, like you said, he's going to get some assists that are just kind of secondary luck that he didn't really create, but he shot it and then some. But I think he's also going to get some of those goals. They're going to be worried about Bedard. He shoots, no one's on Bert. Boom, he just taps it in.
Right.
So I
Sounds like a
think he
stud
is
to
going to
me.
benefit. I think he is going to benefit from being there, but if he's got to get more than 50 points on the year for me to not say he's a scrub this year.
I agree with that part of it. If Yahoo says hopefully he can return to 50 points, and last year he went 20 and 20, he actually went 21 and 22. So you're
Yeah,
saying he got 43. Hopefully he goes to 50. If you only go to 50 playing on line one, you're a scrub.
yeah,
I think that's crazy. I think that's why I put him as stud. Is like, yeah, what are you talking about, Yahoo? Because my pushback to you saying the scrub is just their roster, especially that you put him higher than
yeah.
me. Well, Taylor Hall, I guess. Okay, maybe Taylor Hall's the answer. I'm looking at him going,
But I do think there is a
Then
little bit,
who's
like you
going to
said,
play
with the
with
line
Bernard?
manipulation. I do think there's going to be some line manipulation. So I don't think Bert stays on the top line all year long.
Yeah, I could see Taylor Hall up there for sure if he's healthy and he's going. I could see there's a situation where Bert doesn't play with Bedard at all.
Yeah.
They've got Reichel, they've got Mikuchev is underrated, however you say his name. Ilya, he went viral a little bit because there was like a foot race where he beat McDavid or something, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, he's the fastest person in the world."
Yeah.
Okay, well, Athanasiou is known for his speed. I mean, I could see some line shuffling. You got a point there, but I can't go back on my saying that he's going to get 90 points. But
This one
um,
will be a fun one at the end of the
this will be
season.
a fun one.
Milk or
Does this age
wine?
like
Milk
wine or
or
age like
wine?
milk?
Yeah.
Uh, but I do want to say one thing. You mentioned Bernard sophomore slump. I wouldn't be that surprised because it's common. And I have a theory that I think he's going to not have a sophomore slump. I think he's going to kill it. You look at someone who's 18 years old, it's hard to predict, right? But everyone says, trust me, this is the guy. This is the guy. He's the next McDavid. He's the next Crosby, right? Everyone's going crazy for this kid. Then he comes into the league and he lives up to it. He really is that good. But other than the injury, right? It's like, okay, that's hard. We don't know yet. We haven't seen 82 games. Will he step backwards? I just pulled up Crosby's stats for fun. His rookie year, he gets 102 points, which is insane, and doesn't even win the Calder because of Ovechkin.
Ovechkin, baby.
So he comes in the next year. He almost plays a full year, not quite. He got 79 games. His sophomore slump, 120 points in 79 games. Now that I think his second year, especially, we got Malkin and Letang and whoever else they had. Their guys were rolling, but if, in my opinion, Bednard is not going, the N is in there. The Bedard is going to not have a sophomore slump. So if I think he goes out there and basically has a 40 goal year, maybe more. I'm a little hesitant to call him 50, but I think if he goes out there and but my theory I was going to mention is I'm not sure yet because everyone knows that he has a weird shot. It's deceptive. It comes off at a different angle. He plays with a long stick. Okay. They are the best goalies on earth. They just need one season to study that. The puck's still going in the net sometimes. But he's not taking a wrist shot from the blue line and beating goalies bar down like he did in junior. Connor Hellebuck plays you 8 times a year or whatever. You're in the same division. A clean shot ain't going in every time. It's going in sometimes. He's got an amazing shot. But they know that the way he pulls it in, he releases it kind of from behind him almost by his heel. And it's weird. And it's close into his body. And it's hard to defend. Once a goalie of that caliber knows that, look at the goalies in the division. Saros, Hellebuck, Ottinger. And especially Ottinger is so big, they will just scoot over a half of a step when Bedard has the puck. He's right-handed. He comes in at an angle, and he does that. Everyone's seen how good he is. He can still score, but they can cheat 3 inches, and it's like that could be the difference between 50 goals and 35 goals. It really could. So I'm interesting to see how that plays out. But we've rambled a little bit there. That was me going off topic. Sorry, but I like that you've got the same players as Scrub, who I've got as a stud. Can't wait to see how that goes.
Exactly. All right. So
Now I got to do a
go.
Scrub.
Now you do scrub, and I'll do a stud. Hopefully, it'll be a different player this time.
Yeah, hopefully it will be because I have 3 people on my list that are the same reason. I'm trying to pull up my stats here, but whatever. I have them as scrubs for exactly the same reason. I think that all 3 of these guys had big years last year, and they're going to be a little bit ballooned and a little bit overvalued. And next year, I think they'll be fine, but their numbers are going to be less. So I'm going to go with my number 1 out of these 3. I think Matt Zuccarello is the step back. Let me pull up your face. I got the wrong tab open. Okay, I was going to say, if you got the same guy, you're doing a stud. So Zuccarello, for me, he had 12 goals last year. I could see more goals maybe, but he had 51 assists. That is, Zuccarello is a very good player. He's a 200-foot player. He's always been kind of underrated. He's always been there as a really
Yeah.
good player. But the points haven't always been there. Well, Kaprizov is just amazing. So he's getting points just being on the power play and whatever. And Zuccarello had a great year last year. But he's
Yeah.
1 year older. It's one step slower. And the Wild play in a hard division where they are very much put your bootstraps on, blue collar, go to work type of team, other than Kaprizov is a superstar. But it's like, to me, that team is just bang them off the boards, high and hard off the glass, get in there and get the job done. And it's going to be a lot for a whole nother year with Zuccarello. I don't think he's going to get 50 assists. I don't have his Yahoo ranking in front of me. I lost him, but I just see that 50 assists. I don't know. I don't know back-to-back years. I think he's a step back. He only had 12 goals, so I can see him 15 goals, maybe even 20 goals, but I'm thinking 20 goals and 30 assists maybe, or
Yeah.
15 goals and 40 assists,
Yeah.
just to jump back a little bit. He's also a fantasy guy that, in general, over the years, is available sometimes.
For sure.
That's somebody that you could maybe not even draft at all.
Yeah.
And then if he's hot and I'm wrong and he's killing it, pick him up. Maybe you drop Bertuzzi and go pick up Zuccarello. But, I wouldn't pick him before like 15-ish round, depending how many rounds are there in our league, 18?
18. But the
You want
18th
the
round is
keeper
our
though.
keepers.
So yeah, I'm thinking the last 3 rounds, if you want a little depth, he's probably good. But
Yeah.
round 8, round 10, no, not for me.
Okay. Nice. I like it. All right. So my stud is Mikhail Sergachev. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
him earlier when you were going through the teams in Utah. I love that Utah brought him in. I do think he was a little obviously overshadowed in Tampa Bay with Hedman there, but I think he's fully capable of being the guy in Utah. He's going to log a ton of minutes. Like I said, I didn't realize how young he was until this year. I think he's not even like maybe 24, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So he can handle those minutes. Utah's a good young team. I like a lot of the talent that they have there. Obviously, some of it's Arizona, but like I said, I think that whole organization, the whole team, all those players, I think this fresh start, new identity is just going to be like the best thing for those guys to just kind of be able to start over. And I think Sergachev, knowing that he's the guy there, knowing that
Yep.
he's on PP1 and he's back there, he's the top D man. He knows it. He knows that it's
Yep.
his team. He got hurt last year. Hopefully, if he comes back fully recovered, I think he's out to prove something. Now, if he comes back and he's starting to, he's not all the way healthy and this injury lingers, then maybe he's not a stud. But if he comes back fully healthy, I think he's got a lot to prove. The guys in Utah got a lot to prove. And I could see him being a very serviceable defenseman because I don't know what his Yahoo ranking is off the top of my head, but I feel like he's a guy that's going to fly under the radar. He's not in that top tier of defensemen with Carlson, Fox, Makar, Yossi, but he's might be seen as a tier below, maybe even 2 tiers below that. So I think you'll be able to get him later in the draft, and I think he's going to put up maybe top 15 defenseman numbers.
Yep.
Maybe top 12. I don't know, but I like him as a diamond in the rough, a stud, a bang for your buck kind of player that you can get in some later rounds maybe. But he's gonna, I think he's just gonna have maybe a career year this year. So I like Mikhail Sergachev, Utah.
I love that pick. I totally agree with what you're saying. Yahoo does have him ranked pretty good because his ranking from last season's really low. That's not fair. He got
Mm.
hurt, right?
Hurt, missed a
So
lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, he and Dougie Hamilton actually are almost mirrored each other.
Mm,
They're
okay.
they finished ranked 541 Sergachev, 584 Dougie Hamilton, but they
Okay.
didn't play the whole year. So
Yeah.
their projected is right next to each other. Dougie Hamilton
Okay.
69, Sergachev 67.
Oh
If
wow.
you
Okay.
filter by
So he is kind
defenseman
of up there.
only,
Yeah.
though, they both they're if I'm counting right, they're 9 and 10 of the
Okay.
defensemen.
Yeah. So
So,
he's a little more on the radar than what I thought, but I think he's gonna have
but
a big year.
exactly what you said, though. Oh, it's the file right here. Dougie Hamilton played 20 games. Sergachev played 34, and they both didn't have very many points, of course. But Sergachev had tons of block shots. They both had good shots on goals. I'm not meaning to bring in
Yeah.
Dougie Hamilton in the wrong division, but what you're saying, though, it is exactly right. And so it looks like Yahoo's on to something here this time. I would agree with them, but for the same
Yeah.
reasons you said, it is for me. It's a good example. I think Fleury is like this. Flurry, I think, plays better when it's like you have to play good or we lose. Like the Stanley
Right.
Cup comes down to you,
It's on the line.
and it's like that's the best he ever plays. Even when he was in Vegas, when it was like Leonard got hurt and whatever. Which, speaking of
Well,
news,
whole nother topic. Yeah.
not right now. But whoa, that we are recording September 28th when that news came out,
Yeah.
2024. Another time, or maybe we won't talk about that. But Sergachev, though, I think it's gonna do wonders for his career and for fantasy. He's just gonna get more points. He just has to. He just has to
Yeah.
get more points, and I think he will. And the way he plays is like, I think he needs that green flag where it's like, not only are you our guy, where you have to be defensively responsible. We need you. You're the best person, but it's like you must run the power play. You have to be able to find Logan Cooley backdoor doing Michigan passes to Gunther. It's
Yeah.
like they're all so young and so fast and so good. So is Sergachev, and
Yeah.
they're all gonna just rise together. I think. Where Utah, I know that we both kind of said they're in the playoffs, but like there's 5 guys, 6 guys maybe that are like that's all you need. They are not gonna win the Stanley Cup, but Sergachev is gonna lead the charge from the back end. And those young guns are going to run, and they are going to be fun to watch, and they're going to score a lot of goals. And on
Yeah.
fantasy, that's what you need.
That's the
So
key.
I love your pick there. Sorry to just say the same thing you said, but I just
It's
as
all
soon as you
right.
said Kev, I'm like, yes, yes, because I didn't pick him as my guy, but like when I read his name, I'm like, what? He only got 2 goals, and I'm like, oh wait, no, he was hurt, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
yes. So now we get to pick one or the other.
Yep.
I guess I'm gonna pick a stud because all of my scrubs are the exact same thing I did for Zuccarello. All 3 of the guys I wrote down is just the same thing. I think they're
Okay.
just going to be a step back.
Yeah.
So this one is, well, I guess I got 2. That's do you have Stamkos on your list anywhere?
I do not.
Okay, then I'll go with that because I got 2. I'll just break down.
Okay.
I'll go with Stamkos. I did Stamkos and Velarde, but so I'll go
Okay.
with Stamkos. Stamkos, I think, is an obvious pick because he's a superstar and he's been a superstar for years, and it's nothing crazy. But I know he's getting older, but he had 40 goals last year, and everyone knows how the negotiations went down, and he's your captain. He's debatably the best player the Lightning have ever had in their history. I know
Right.
that they're good. I know LeCavalier and St. Louis and Hobby Bulin and their current roster. Look at,
Yeah.
Kucherov. But Stamkos is debatably the best player in the franchise's history. And then when he goes and signs, it's like not that much more money at the end of the day. And I think he felt offended. I think he thought he would retire there. He's a little older. He has a family. People forget sometimes, like, they make millions of dollars. I don't feel bad for players, but it's like he's got little kids in school that don't understand why they have to move away and say goodbye to their friends,
Yeah.
or I don't know how young his kids are, but it's like that stuff affects people, I think, more. And when you're this good at hockey, and allegedly he and Marchessault like called each other and they were like, dude, let's do this. They are mad. I think
Hmm.
Stamkos and Marchessault both are veterans that are going to come into this Nashville team that is all the hype and all the attention on them, and they freaking love it. I think they're going to go out there and they're just going to tear it up. I've got Steven Stamkos as the stud because I don't know how many points he's going to get, but he's going to be on the power play and he's going to be angry. I've got him down for 50 goals this year.
Nice. I like it.
So
I like it.
I know that everyone's out there going, yeah, we know Stamkos is good. That's not a good pick. But I just think he's going to be. Last year, he got 40 goals, 40 assists. And I think
Yeah.
this year, it's going to be the same thing. He's going to get 80 or 90 points, and he's going to get a crap ton of goals for fantasy. Some people are saying, nope, this is the end. He's going to sit back with his money and pull up a lawn chair, and he's only going to get
Hmm.
15 goals. I don't
Yeah, I
see it.
don't see that.
I don't see it.
I don't see that. So I like it. Good pick.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. I'm also going to go with another stud, and I'm apparently on the Utah bandwagon. So I'm going Logan Cooley,
Yeah, great pick.
and so I like him as a stud because here is what happens in our league. He's a center, and centers in our league teams always get stuck. So we have two centers, four wingers, four defensemen, two goalies. So if you get four centers on your team, it's kind of tough to play them all, and then you're kind of losing out on a game because, more than likely, you're at least three of those are going to be playing the same nights, and so now you got a guy. I like to roll with three centers. That way, whenever one's not playing, I got another one to just kind of plug and play. But you get to four centers. Sometimes teams auto draft or something happens. You just picking the next best available player, and now you got maybe four or five centers even. And
Yeah,
so then you're kind of handcuffed a little bit because everyone knows that, but yet they're still a good player. And so it'll happen in our draft this year as well, where you're going to have some good centers that people are just passing over
yeah,
in the rounds just because they don't need centers. And so I have Logan Cooley as a stud in the sense that he's going to be a guy that could be, you know, a plug and play player or a guy like a legit decent third center. If you needed to put him in there, he's only 20 years old. Um, he was a rookie last year, but I mean, you're 20, you're still, I mean, it can kind of feel like a rookie season too.
yeah,
But he had 44 points last year. And I think, that team, does he push 60 this year? Maybe.
yeah,
And if you can
yeah,
get a guy, if you can get a center only, especially for the way our fantasy league, the format is, I think he's a guy that might not even get drafted in our league,
yeah. Maybe.
but is going to provide some depth, some value for a team at some point during the season. Someone's going to pick him up and start playing, and he's going to get some value for that, whatever team picks him up there. I don't know that you can rock him as maybe your full time third center. I don't know, but I just think if you don't have to waste a draft pick on him, or if you can get him really late, I do think he pushes the 60, 65 point plateau this year. He's going to be
Yeah,
on that power play. He's a second line center, and I like Utah's position that those guys are in. It's not an expansion team, so you don't have these guys coming in and trying to find chemistry playing with each other. It's
yeah, right.
still a lot of the same players, but yet it's a fresh start for all of them.
Yeah,
And so I think Utah, I think they're going to have a good year this year. I think all those players are going to be motivated. They're gonna relish this opportunity that you don't get every day. And so I like those guys. I like Sergachev as a stud, and I like Logan Cooley, bang for your buck, diamond in the rough, stud.
yeah. That's a great pick, and for exactly what you're saying, a diamond in the rough. It's a good point you make. I said it last podcast. Nick's really actually very good at fantasy strategy and how to do it. He's got the most wins in our league, but that way of thinking is like when you're drafting in your fantasy, the way we do it at least is you have those center positions exactly how you said it. There will be round 4, 5, 6, 7 where there are better players available, but because they're a center only, I'm going.
You're
I've already got
skipping them.
three centers. I can't have another
Yep.
center. I have to get a goalie, or I'm light on. I've been down to round 10 before and been like, I've
Yeah.
got one D. And sometimes you risk it, right? You get Yossi or you get Makar, and you're like, "That I'm good. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
forward now, and then I'll just plug in the D at the end." And you get burnt sometimes because there's four
Right.
spots. And so, like you're saying, if you can get a Cooley way down 15, 16, 17, or don't draft him, get him in free
He might
agents.
even not be drafted. Yeah.
That is, I mean, if he goes 20-20, that is a really good undrafted player. If he
Yeah.
goes 30-40, you're laughing.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
anyways, I think that was a great pick. I think we got studs and scrubs done. Would
Yep.
we want to go ahead and do some history, NHL history with Nick?
Yeah, I got an NHL segment here, Nick's hockey history lesson. I don't is it Nick's? Did we say Nick's history lesson? Nick's
I don't
hockey
remember,
lesson?
but
I
we'll
don't
come
know.
up with it. You're going to be a history teacher,
It's the
Professor
NHL.
Nick.
Whatever you want. Nick's history lesson, Nick's hockey
Nick's
lesson.
history,
You pick
whatever it
it.
is. Yeah, we've got. What do you got? Are we going through awards, or are we doing something different?
Okay, well, I know that all the awards are on the list, and
Yeah.
I was also very tempted to do. I had one other topic I was maybe looking into, and then I picked one that I thought, man, I should save this for later in the season, way
Mhm.
later in the season. But I'm excited about it now, so we're gonna do it now, and it's gonna be Al, the octopus
Oh,
for
okay.
the Red Wings. I thought, maybe wait till playoff time. Wings are on, in the playoffs, go over the whole history of the octopus,
We're
the
gonna
tentacles,
revisit when the Wings lock. Once it's whatever
for
week
sure.
the Wings lock their
Yeah,
position because we know they're making it,
yeah. So
then
like
we'll
middle
come
of February.
back.
No, I'm just
President's Trophy. Larkin has 140 points.
Hey, if Bertuzzi can get 90, why can't Larkin get
Hey,
140?
hey, let's do it, baby. Raymond scores
Oh,
65. Matthews who?
you're right. Okay, so yeah, Al the Octopus. All right, so I know a lot of people. I've even gone to games before where people are, like, what is this history? Why do they throw an octopus on the ice? What's going
Right.
on? That's stupid. So I'll give a little backstory and kind of how it got started. So this tradition started back in the 50s, and so it's been around longer than most of the teams.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Crazy.
So there were these brothers, Pete and Jerry Casamano, and they owned a fish market in Detroit. And in 1952, Red Wings were playing the Canadians. They were up 3-0. Those guys were just sitting in their fish market one day. They had an octopus there, and it was just like, hey, the eight tentacles, 8 wins to win the cup, make it a thing, bring them some good luck. And, it just made sense back in those days when you only needed to win 8 games to win the cup.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so the eight
Because that's
tentacles
still original six,
symbolize,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
still original six. So the eight
Yeah.
tentacles symbolize the 8 wins needed to win the Stanley Cup.
Awesome.
So on April 15th, 1952, they went to a game against Montreal. Um, Wings win the cup. Pete Casamano throws the first octopus onto the ice, um, and the tradition is born. So
How cool is that, though? I
after
mean,
that, they win in 1952, they won in 1954 and 1955. Now, between 56 and 66, they went to the finals 5 times. They lost them all. So kind of coming down off of the Howe, Lindsay, years. Um,
Abel,
Still
Sasha,
good, able, yeah, yeah.
they're all
Still
going away.
good, competitive, but on the decline. And then, of course, we hit the Dead Wings era. They're just terrible in the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
And then in 1986-87, the Wings are looking pretty good. They make the playoffs. They break I believe, like a 14-year drought of the playoffs. And so they're hoping to make a long playoff run. So the Red Wings actually reach out to Superior Fish Company for some octopi for a photo shoot. They want to make this a thing. Hey, let's bring back the octopus. They helped us in the
Okay.
50s. That was kind of a thing. It was a cool thing. We liked it. Now we're back in the playoffs. Let's bring it back. Let's try to revive it a little bit. So they, like I said, Superior Fish Company um, supplies them with some octopus, and they do a photo shoot. Then late 80s, 90s, they're coming back. The octopus is coming back. In 1998, when the Wings were in the playoffs, in a single day, Superior Fish Company sold over 100 octopi.
Whoa.
Why they even have that many in stock, I have no idea. But
Ready to go for the wings, baby.
um, so yeah, it kind of gets revitalized, reborn a little bit in the late 80s and then into the 90s. Obviously, the Wings don't break the curse until 97, but they were right there in 96, 95, had the best record, lost to the Devils in the finals. So they were coming back around. They were um, on
Yep.
their way to becoming a force to be reckoned with, obviously. So Al Sabotka or Sabatka, depending on how you want to say it, Al Sabatka is the building manager and ice keeper in charge at Joe Louis Arena. He's the famous Zamboni driver.
Oh,
He's he's in charge of collecting these off of the ice, the octopus, after they get thrown on there, right? So
it
he's
does
the ice guy. So he goes out there, grabs it, starts slinging around, getting the crowd pumped up. Here we go, baby.
yeah,
And becomes just an iconic image of this guy, a maintenance worker, out there pumping up the crowds, slinging the octopus over his head.
right.
And his name is Al.
I
Al,
didn't
the
realize
octopus.
that.
So, um, in 1995. I don't know if this was the biggest one, but in 95, they pull a 30-pound octopus off the ice. Insane. Pretty big.
Right, it'd be 5 feet tall or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah.
huge.
So he says the 5 to 6 pound ones are the best for grabbing and swinging over your head. I mean, imagine slinging a 30-pound thing over your head.
Yeah, and they're slippery
The
too.
cup's
I mean,
35. The cup's 35 pounds. So, I mean, you're
yeah,
talking,
good call.
Um, so yeah. What did I have here? Okay, so you can still go. This Superior Fish company is still around, and they actually have an boy. I'm gonna draw a blank on how to say this. Octoquette, Octoquette.
Hmm.
It's kind of like etiquette, but an
Yeah,
octoquette.
Octokid.
So there's this octoquette from Superior Fish. They want you to do three things. If you come there and get an octopus from them and they know you're going to throw it on the ice, it's kind of an unwritten thing. Hey, please don't throw octopus on the ice, but we're also the Red Wings, so feel
We're
free
gonna
to
do
throw octopus on the ice. So their three things are number one, boil the octopus first, about 30 minutes, reduces the slime.
it. Oh,
A little bit easier grip, start slinging it. Also, doesn't leave as much residue on the ice to be cleaned up, so there's not a delay in the game. Makes sense. Second
okay.
thing. Second thing is to know the appropriate time to throw the octopus on the ice. After a Red Wings goal or immediately after the completion of the national anthem. Not during
Okay.
the anthem, not
Not
before. We're not
during
trying
the
to
anthem.
distract, doing any of that stuff. But immediately after the anthem or after a Red Wings goal, go ahead and feel free to chuck that bad boy on the ice.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, the third thing, don't throw it at players or officials or personnel. You want
Right,
to chuck it
right.
to an open space. That's their third thing that they say. So obviously, makes sense. You don't want to hit anybody. We're not trying to cause a game delay or anything by doing that. So the octokit from Superior Fish, boil it. Make sure you do it at the appropriate time, and make sure you don't throw it at any players, wing or visitors,
Or
or an official, or any personnel. Um,
wow.
so they have that, and also real quick, at Joe Louis Arena, the very last game um, played there. How many? If you had to guess, how many octopus? Do you
Octopi.
do you think were thrown on the ice for the last game at the Joe?
Last game at the Joe. Remind me of a year real quick. Last game at the Joe is
Ooh,
12.
2017?
Okay.
It was Zetterberg's last year. So I'm thinking 2017, 2018, something like that.
Right. So wings are still okay, but we're on the decline there.
They knew we
Doesn't
weren't
matter
making the
if we
playoffs. We missed the
weren't making.
playoffs. The last game at the Joe also was Zetterberg's 1000th career game.
Ooh, okay. So it is a pretty big. I'm gonna guess that there was 36 thrown.
35.
I didn't cheat. I
Nice.
promise.
Nice. I
That was
got
less
worried
though.
because I say like I made it seem like it was this huge number. So I was
Right.
like, "Oh, 200," but it's like, "Okay, well,
740. And it's like
right, yeah." But I
no.
mean, 35 octopi on the ice from
That's
last game at the Joe. So,
That's super cool. And also, just being an old, boring guy, it made me immediately think of I wonder if they knew that they needed more staff going into the last game.
mm,
Like, you're going to have to go out there and get octopus every single whistle. Like, you,
yeah, yeah.
and then, of course, like you said, the slime factor. Before the etiquette, the octave kit came out, I
Yeah,
remember for sure when we were young, like you would see they'd zoom in and they'd be
they'd have
scraping
to
off
go
the
out there and
gear.
scrape it off. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if that's part of it, where they're like, because I knew that it was a thing where they were like, you can get a penalty, like the home team can get a penalty
You could
sometimes,
probably get like a bench mine or delay a game
or definitely
sometimes.
during play, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean,
we'll go
even
on the
even
record,
after let's say the Red Wings score a goal and then you throw this octopus out there and they got to bring out the thing and they got to scrape it off. I
scrape it.
mean,
Or if you wait too long, right? Like they score, they
yeah,
celebrate, they're good, they line up, they're gonna drop the puck, then you throw it. It's like, dude,
yeah. So I can definitely see that being a delay game, just a bench penalty on the team. It's because it's different than guy gets a hat trick. All right, everyone throws their hats on the ice. Now we got to pick these hats up. That's different. Refs don't care about that. It doesn't leave residue on there. They're
right.
doing it for an accomplishment. The octopus, I can see them kind of being sticklers about that and being like, all right, well now you're just slowing down the game.
Now we
So
know the OctaKit though. So
the
if
octokit,
you're out there,
yes,
you're a Wings fan, especially if you
Superior
live in
Fish
Detroit,
Company.
you got to follow the rules, do it at the right time. Don't throw it at anybody, even the
Yeah,
Claude Lemieux of the world.
yeah.
Just throw it on the ice. Could you imagine a 30-pound octopus coming down from the rafters?
Oof.
I
Yeah,
mean, you could
crazy.
really hurt somebody. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me? Throw that in the open ice, you'll be good. Dude, that is super cool, though. I didn't know about Al's naming. I didn't
yeah,
know about the OctaKit stuff, especially boiling it first so
yeah.
it's not sticky.
I just stumbled upon that recently as well. So, but
And
I thought it
something
was
else you
really
said I
interesting.
didn't know at all. I knew that the 8 legs was the 8 wins or
Yeah,
whatever, but that is super interesting. I love
yeah.
that. Nick's always going to have, or I don't know if every episode, but we'll try.
I'm
You
hoping
know,
to just a little something, couple minutes
little
history
something.
lesson.
We'll go over some of the awards and whatnot, but I love this. It's a great little segment that you do. And we won't always do the Red Wings just for the history. There is a lot of NHL history
Right.
that goes with the Red Wings too. Like someday you
Absolutely.
should do the Ted Lindsay with the cup or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Remember
Oh
that one?
yeah.
That. But we'll do the whole NHL history and maybe outside the NHL. I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of college or whatever, but it's mostly just coverage and whatever. Like
Yeah.
we're
I'm
not
hoping
full time
to
insiders.
kind of started with the award thing, so but I didn't want to just have the next 20 episodes be award history,
The
you know.
award,
So
right? Yeah,
maybe
I
pick
love it though. A little
something hockey
variety.
related, you know.
We'll do some
Yeah.
some of the big boys, maybe or whatever, some of that history.
Yeah.
Maybe the expansions. That'd be a good one. That'd be a lot of
Oh
homework
yeah.
for you though.
Yeah.
Like the what was it? The '70s where they jumped to 12 teams,
Yeah.
and a lot of those teams
Late
don't exist, right?
60s,
I feel
somewhere
like
in
the
there.
California Seals came out in the first expansion, and there's some
Mhm.
teams that'd be a fun one to see
Yeah.
how it jumped, but. That's cool though. I love that history. I've got nothing else for the studs and scrubs. Next episode, we're going to do the Pacific, and that'll be the wrap up. We're going to try to get everything out there before the season starts. We're recording these beforehand, and we're trying to do a drop where we drop the first four of our division breakdowns before the season begins. And the Euro Cup thing that's on the 4th is throwing us off
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit. We had originally planned for the podcast to come out October 8th for the new season starting where the Panthers lift their banner. But since Europe games are happening first, we're not quite sure how we're going to drop it. I guess you'll find out. You got to tune in and listen. Thank you, everybody, for giving us a chance. Nick, do you have anything
Yep.
else you want to add?
I don't appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe, smash the buttons, do all the things, support us, follow us. I'm at Zamboni Driver 17 on Instagram. I think we're Studs and Scrubs podcast on Instagram, or just Studs and Scrubs.
Just studs and scrubs on Instagram. We had a
Perfect.
little issue of which one's which. I think that we're studs and scrubs on YouTube, and I think we're studs and scrubs podcast on one of them. I'm drawing a blank, sorry. But
All right.
you can find me at Stu Coffee. Our Instagram's up and running. We don't have our episodes yet, but we're going to have Spotify and YouTube drop and whatever comes with the program. I don't know if it does like Apple Music or if it just goes directly to Spotify, but we'll have it up and running soon. Studs and Scrubs, hockey podcast. You just find us at Studs and Scrubs. Nick Cordell 17. No, Zamboni Driver 17. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can find me Stu Coffee. And Studs and Scrubs will be the official one for the podcast. So
We'll put them
thanks
in the
everyone
links,
for giving
all
us a
that good
chance
stuff.
and listening.
So,
And keep your stick on the ice.
make them make the first move, Conway.
All right, Nate. See you, bud.